This is the evening hour, and I am speaking to our inner group. This is not for entertainment, not for passing around, not for quoting. I must ask you not to pass on what begins here until you yourself have completely mastered it in practice. If this teaching gets into the wrong hands, then for them the tape never had been made. We are not playing with ideas tonight. We are receiving an assignment that requires your sincerity, your secrecy, and your willingness to be governed. Now, the door opens in a strange way, and you may not like it at first. The moment you come to God, and you have nothing to say, nothing to ask, nothing to plead, you are finally ready to hear. Do you see the paradox? When the sentences run out, when the beautiful affirmations dry up on the tongue, the soul at last becomes teachable. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is readiness. Silence is that instant in which the personal mind stops performing and the inner presence announces itself. Be still and know, I am God. You will be tempted, I know, to rush, to ask me for a technique, a script, a way to get quick relief. No, this work wouldn't rush, because rushing is the ego trying to govern spirit. You will say, give me the words, and I must say to you, lay them down. You will say, give me the steps, and I must answer, be still and know I am God. Do not use that sentence as a formula. Use it as a living command that, when it comes, stops you. It stops the tongue. It quiets the forehead. It arrests the habit of religious talking to God as if God were far off. It is not your address to deity so much as deity's address to you. Be still and know I am God. For this opening assignment, assume nothing spectacular, nothing dramatic. Expect resistance. At first, you may not enjoy this. You may not even approve of it. That is natural. Nevertheless, it will take you not less than 3 to 4 months to successfully accomplish this meditation to the point of reliability. I require of you never less than 1 hour a day, and if you can, 2. Several times during the day, return to the silence for 5-minute periods, not speaking into it, not pushing affirmations into it, simply yielding to it. And keep the purpose of it secret. If you kneel, kneel in secret. If you light a candle, let it be to remind you of an invisible grace, not to inform the world that you are devout. We are not here to use God for a purpose. We are here to be used. So, tonight and each night, sit down, take a breath, and allow the sentences to die. When you notice the mind searching for a prayer to offer, stop. When you find yourself composing an argument to persuade God to do something, stop. When there is nothing left to say, do not become frightened. That is the doorway. Stay there. Be still and know, I am God. In that quiet, the real work begins, not by you, and yet through you. Now then, for the purpose of this practice, you must assume, do not argue it for the moment, accept it for the sake of the work, that there are 2 of you. There is the personal me, the one that signs checks, answers the telephone, worries, hopes, and tries to be spiritual. And there is the inner I, which is life itself, presence, the governing one. Do not make the mistake of thinking I am setting up 2 powers. No, there is only one power, one presence. But for training, we speak as if the me is distinct from the I, so that you may learn the posture of yielding. Outwardly, it will appear that you are the one who sits, who breathes, who listens. In reality, the only word for the doer is I. Not the I of thinking, not the I of personal will, but I that I am. Words and thoughts exhaust themselves, because they belong to the personal sense, trying to reach God as an object. Do you see? The me speaks upward, outward, forward, any way but inward, as if God were a distance to be crossed by phrases. That is why you have known the strange futility of many devotions, beautiful words, sincere thoughts, and yet a subtle fatigue, because the me was performing. When at last the tongue grows quiet and the mind runs out of material, the instrument is ready. Be still and know I am God. Do not use that as a speech to God. Let it come as God's speech to you. The moment you feel it that way, the governance changes hands. Your role, then, is not to manufacture spiritual power, but to behold. The me retires into the role of witness and transparency. I must ask you to accept this. We do not pour truth into conditions. We witness the presence of truth where the condition claimed to be. We do not fix appearances. We refuse them authority and stand still until the inner I reveals itself as the only actor. The me is not dismissed with contempt. It is simply unemployed from ruling. It watches. It consents. It is used. This is not personal power. This is the surrender of personal power to the only power. It is not your refined mind learning better techniques. No. It is the end of technique as cause. The instant you try to push spirit, you are back in the me. The instant you lean into effect, into form, into argument, you are back in the me. Be still and know I am God. Let that sentence strip the me of the crown it falsely wears, and let it enthrone I within your very awareness. Now prepare yourself for discomfort. The personal mind will complain. It will say, I am doing nothing. Oh, good. That sense of unemployment is your first clean signal that you are nearing stillness. The me will try to rescue itself with more holy language, with urgent thoughts, with a sudden memory of someone to help. Do not hurry to be useful. Sit. Allow the uneasiness to pass through like weather. Do not medicate it with words. Let the me rest, even if it trembles as it lies down. In this resting, something quiet turns. You will recognize it not by fireworks, but by a soft authority, a non-arguing assurance, as if you are being lived rather than living. You are breathed. You are looked through, and without your doing, order reappears. That is the threshold of healing. Healing begins when the me stops performing and the inner I is permitted to govern. Be still and know I am God. Now then, before you ever turn toward a claim, before you dare to bring this awareness to a condition, you must pass through the ethical gate. Put up thy sword. I must ask you never to enter healing consciousness with a fighting spirit. Not against disease, not against fear, not against any person, not even against the thought of a condition. The moment you set yourself to oppose, you have established two powers, and you are back in the me. Do you see that? The me loves a battle. Spirit has no opponent. Be still and know I am God. There is a hidden violence in most so-called treatments. It sounds religious, it looks benevolent, but it is the attempt to change, to fix, to manipulate, to get God to do something for a purpose. That is aggression in ecclesiastical clothing. The instant you try to make truth do a job, you have reduced God to a tool and enthroned the condition as a power to be conquered. That keeps you in duality, healer and patient, right and wrong, spirit and disease. There are not two. There is I. There is no power in form or effect. All power is in the I that I am. Be still and know I am God. True compassion is spiritual harmlessness. It refuses to grant power to appearances, and it refuses to hate them. It does not take sides against a germ, against a growth, against a symptom. It beholds. It stands in the quiet recognition that what parades as cause is only a claim, an appearance without law, without life, without mandate. And because it withholds fear and hatred, it withholds the false breath that would inflate the appearance. Compassion never argues. It never pleads. It never tries to persuade God. Compassion rests, and in that rest, dominion is felt. Be still. This is why I guard this method. In the wrong hands, it becomes mental coercion, spiritual ambition, the desire to prove oneself by demonstrations, the will to shine. Better that such a one never heard of this than that they arm the me with sacred language. I must ask you not to pass this on, not to practice it publicly, not to speak of it as your technique. Hide it in your heart. Practice it in secret until the edge of will has been dulled into willingness, until you cannot even locate the one who would heal. Here is your self-test, and I will hold you to it. If there is pressure in you, stop. If there is anger, stop. If there is strain, stop. If there is urgency in your chest or behind your eyes, stop. You are not in healing consciousness. You are in the me. Lay it down. Close the lips. Let the tongue rest. Return to the stillness as long as it takes. 5 minutes, 10, an hour. Put up thy sword. Be still and know I am God. When at last the inner weather clears and there is no push in you, only a quiet certainty that requires no words, then you may sit as a beholder, not to do, but to witness that I governs. Non-aggression is not passivity. It is spiritual dominion refusing to acknowledge a second power. Enter there, or do not enter at all. Now then, we begin the work that will not be rushed. I must ask you, do not attempt to complete this as if it were a task with a finish line. This is training, not punishing. Your mind and your body are not culprits. They are students. You are not harsh with a student you love. You govern gently from the seat of the I. Be still and know I am God. Take your place, not inside the chatter, not inside the forehead where the words tumble, but as if you were an inch or two above the head, looking down into it. You are not speaking to God. You are addressing the human sense, the performing me, with tenderness and authority. Be still. Be still and know I am God. Let it come as a quiet command that brooks no argument and yet carries no violence. Be still. Do not hurry. If all you do for 10 minutes is feel yourself seated above the mind, looking down at its movements and softly saying, "Be still," that is enough. We are not chasing an experience. We are allowing receptivity. We are not pushing the mind into silence. We are offering it a government it can at last trust. If it resists, oh good, you have found the very place that needs governance. Smile at it, do not scold. Be still and know, I am God. Now notice the difference between blankness and stillness. Blankness is like turning off the lights with a slap. Numb, fogged, drowsy. That is not our goal. Stillness is alert, listening, receptive, as if the ear of the heart were open and waiting for a voice you do not manufacture. If you find yourself slipping into a dull haze, open your eyes gently, breathe, return to your place above the head, and begin again. Be still. Let the first descent be slow. Look down into the crown, into the forehead, where tensions script themselves. Speak without words if you can, but if you need the form, give it. Be still. Allow the eyes to be students, not masters. The tongue, the tongue will try to pray. Let it lie quiet against the floor of the mouth. No pushing, no forcing. Just the steady rain of, be still and know I am God. Spoken to the human sense until it stops trying to take over the lesson. You will fail 100 times, and that is not a sin. That is the curriculum. Wandering thoughts are not enemies. They are the very sheep you have been sent to shepherd. If the list of chores arrives, if the memory of a claim arrives, if the urge to fix, to prove, to treat arrives, recognize the me reporting for duty. Thank it and dismiss it. Return to your seat and say again, be still. Several times in this sitting, you will have to begin again and again. This is the practice. Allow yourself to come down out of the head, only as you are led. No hurry. No, now I must reach the chest. We are not climbing rungs. We are relinquishing rule. If all that occurs tonight is a felt softening behind the eyes and a sense that someone else is now at the helm, you have done holy work. Leave the session when a quiet order settles itself, when the need to push has drained away. If nothing happens, do not conclude there was no progress. Each yielding is a thread. In time, it becomes a cord strong enough to hold you without effort. Stillness is not achieved by force, but by gentle, repeated yielding to the inner I. Be still and know I am God. Now then, look into the head as if it were hollow. Not to analyze, not to label the shapes and names of thoughts, but simply to behold the interior as a quiet chamber awaiting governance. As you look, do not peer with strain. Sit as the I, just above, gently looking downward into the dome, and say without heat, without hurry, be still. Let the words fall like a light rain upon the inside of the skull. Be still and know I am God. If you can give it without sound, so much the better. But if the human sense needs a whisper, let it be a whisper of authority, never a push. Be still. Move now to the eyes. Allow the eyes to be students, not masters. They have been trying to lead you, darting, scanning, collecting impressions as if safety were in surveillance. It is not. Be still. Let the lids soften, not shut down into sleep. Alert, comfortable, teachable. If there is a pull behind the brows, speak to it as you would to a child at play past bedtime. Be still and know I am God. Not because the eyes are wrong, but because they are not governors. Now to the jaw. Notice the grip that gathers when you are preparing to speak, to argue, to prove. Unhook the teeth. Let the hinge slacken. Be still. You are not chewing on God. You are consenting to be fed. Come to the throat. Here lives the impulse to explain God to God. Here surges the rescue mission of words. You will feel it as a readiness, a climbing energy that wants to shape syllables, to make a case. Do not scold it. Do not gag it. Simply lay the sword of speech in its sheath. Let the tongue rest broad and quiet against the floor of the mouth. Be still. If it twitches with old prayers, old phrases, oh good, there is your pupil. Be still and know I am God. Wait until the compulsion to speak subsides of itself. Do not force silence. Yield to it. We are not suppressing. We are surrendering governance. Now, here is your pivot, and I must ask you to observe it faithfully. When you have nothing to say, do not panic. Do not rush to fill the holy space with quotations. Remain. That nothing is often the first honest prayer you have ever prayed, because at last it does not come from you. Scripture will come, but not as a charm, not as a spell. You cannot use it as a formula. You must let it use you. If suddenly within you there is the soundless tone, "Be still and know I am God," receive it. If nothing comes, receive that. The I knows how to make itself known without your prompting. Adopt the listening posture now, consciously. Say within, not as a plea, but as a fact of order, I am not speaking to God. I am consenting to be addressed by God. Sit with the tongue at rest and notice. When the tongue becomes still, the heart becomes able to listen. A soft hearing opens in the chest, not words first, but a weightless authority. If another wave of speech rises, let it rise and let it pass. Return the tongue to stillness, the throat to peace, the eyes to studentship, the jaw to gentleness. Be willing to do this 5, 10, 100 times in a sitting. Each yielding is a thread in the quiet cord. Be still and know I am God. Now then, come down into the chest. Do not rush past it. This is where the human sense keeps its weather maps, forecasts of storms that never had a sky. Look into the sternum, the ribs, the diaphragm, not as an engineer fixing a machine, but as the I addressing a faithful but frightened student. Be still. Say it as a benediction. Be still and know I am God. Let the breath be whatever it is for a moment. Do not take hold of it. Do not count it. Do not dress it up with technique. We are not going to manage breathing. We are going to discover that we are breathed. Be still. Fear lives here as the great impersonator. It borrows the heartbeat and declares itself a prophecy. It rides the breath and says, "See, I am fact." It comes with pictures, with headlines, with yesterday's story pretending to be tomorrow's law. And then, it is clever. Then it tries to recruit prayer as its advocate. If you will, I will. If this eases, I promise. That is bargaining with a shadow. Put up thy sword, do you see? The instant you strike a bargain, you have treated fear as power and made God into a negotiator. No, be still. Let the diaphragm notice that no deal is being made, no case is being argued. Let it loosen by itself when it is ready. You are not pushing it open. You are withholding the command that kept it braced. Do not treat mentally. I must ask you, do not turn the tightness into a target for affirmations. Do not hurl quotations at a sensation. Do not try to outshout a thumping heart with a louder truth. Be still. Rest without argument until something deeper than thought is present. Wait until the need to rehearse spiritual language fades of itself. In that hush, you will know you are closer to governance than any sentence could bring you. The breath will begin, by itself, to lengthen, to round, to fall like a quiet tide. You did not do it. Oh, good. That is our sign. Now, gently, introduce the recognition that terrifies the me and liberates the I. The nothingness of the claim. Not by defiance, not by a heroic denial, by simple refusal to award authority to form. What is a fluttering? A claim. What is a pressure? A claim. What is a picture of disaster parading on the inner screen? A claim. There is no power in form or effect. All power is in the I that I am. Let that be acknowledged not as a sword point, but as a light in a familiar room, and watch how the apparitional shapes lose their outlines. You do nothing to them. In the absence of your fear, they cannot keep their borrowed breath. Remain here. If anxiety surges, if the chest stiffens, do not rise to fight. Say quietly, "Be still," and wait. If the thought says, "But what about?" answer it only with the stillness that will not be baited. Little by little, the diaphragm consentingly releases its grip, and the breath is taken for you. This is the cue. When the chest softens and the breath lengthens by itself, you are nearer the presence than any thought can bring you. You will not need to say, "God is here." You will find you are being said, addressed, by an authority that carries no sound and yet dismisses terror as an impossibility. Fear dissolves not by mental combat, but by resting in a presence where appearances lose authority. Be still and know, I am God. Now then, let us come down the back. Look as if you could see the length of the spine from the base of the skull to the tailbone. Not anatomically, but as a column that has been trying to carry life by itself. This is the porter of the me, the bearer of bags and duties and names. Speak to it gently, as you would to a faithful servant long overworked. Be still. Be still, and know I am God. Feel, if you can, the place between the shoulder blades, that old posture of leaning forward into tomorrow. Lay the pack down. You are not Atlas. You are not the governor. Let the shoulders fall back into their sockets without force, without command, only with the quiet authority of be still. Travel slowly down each vertebra, as if you were laying a hand upon them one by one. Where you find a grip, a holding, do not pry. Bless it with stillness. Be still. The lumbar. Oh yes, the lower back that tenses to lift the world. Leave it nothing to lift. Say to it, not by might nor by power, but by the I that I am. You are not abandoning responsibility. You are returning it to its rightful owner. As the spine ceases to brace, a curious ease appears, as if you were being propped from within. That is not imagination. That is the first taste of governance. Do not hurry past it. Be still. Now the abdomen. This is where the me keeps its dashboard. Gauges of control, appetite, safety. Notice the band around the navel that tightens when you think, I must. Do not talk it into virtue. Do not treat it with affirmations. Simply invite it into the same government. Be still and know I am God. Let the belly soften out of vigilance, not into slackness, but into trust. We are not making God adjust digestion or calm nerves. We are ending the illusion that you were the manager. This is healing even before any condition moves an inch, because separation is the only malady. And here you are, letting it die. The me ceases to be foreman. The I resumes being life. Come to the hips. Survival camps here. The readiness to run, to push, to brace against the world. Put up thy sword. Tell the pelvis there is no enemy to meet, no project to shove, no door to hold up. Let the sockets seat themselves as if the bones remembered their cradle. Let the buttocks unclench, the groin release its long-held permission to sprint. Be still. The hips are the hinges of aggression and escape. When they grow quiet, a deeper consent arrives. You will feel the weight of the body received, as if the ground itself were saying, I carry you. Now, the moral point must be faced, or this becomes a comfort exercise. We are not using God to secure outcomes. We are not bargaining with presence so that appearances will behave. We yield to God because God is the truth of our being, and anything less than that truth exhausts us. When the abdomen no longer plans and the hips no longer patrol, when the spine no longer supervises, you are not becoming passive. You are yielding jurisdiction to the only governor. Be still and know I am God. Remain a moment and notice the subtle reversal beginning. Up to now you have addressed, directed, invited. In this quiet, you may feel as though the spine is being held upright by an inner hand, as if the abdomen were being watched over, as if the hips were guided into their rest without your counsel. Oh, good. Do not reach for it. Let it have you. Instead of you holding the practice, you are being held. Instead of you watching the body, you are being watched over from within your own being. Receive it without excitement. Let the words fade if they do. Let the governance be felt. As self-governance relaxes, divine governance becomes tangible. Be still and know, I am God. Now then, come down through the thighs. These have been the pistons of hurry, the engines of I must get there, I must do it now. Look down into both thighs as if you could see their length from hip to knee, and without pressure, without any attempt to adjust, say to them, be still, and know I am God. Feel for the urge to rise, to launch, to spring forward into the next thing. Bless that urge with non-aggression. Put up thy sword. There is nothing to chase, nothing to flee. The one that governs is present, and motion no longer needs to prove safety. Be still. Let the attention settle into the knees, not mechanically, not anatomically, but as the eye bidding faithful joints to rest from patrolling the borders of tomorrow. Be still. If there is a tightness that argues, if there is a click or a complaint, do not become a mechanic. Do not fix. Govern. Be still and know I am God. Slip now down into the calves, where readiness coils. Let the muscles that have carried you from urgencies unwind under the same wordless benediction. Be still. And to the ankles, those vigilant swivels that test the ground, tell them the ground is not a hazard. The ground is presence. Be still. Now to the soles. Spread awareness across them as if you could feel the whole map of contact. The heel, the arch, the ball, the toes. Let them widen and receive. You are not bracing to stand your ground. You are consenting to be stood in God. Be still. Let the toes stop reaching for the next step. Let the little gripping at the tips give up its last command. Be still and know I am God. Do not push yourself downward. Allow yourself to be held from within, so that standing, sitting, or lying is the same obedience. Here is the healing logic, and you must not skip it. If there is no power in form or effect, then what you have called a condition has no law to sustain it, no intelligence to organize it, no continuity to carry it into the next minute. It is a claim, an appearance, borrowing your motion as its platform. When the whole being is stilled under I, the claim has no place to stand. On what does a shadow rest when the object is removed? On nothing. Oh, good. This is not denial in anger. It is refusal to lend a foundation. Do not confuse this with ignoring the body. Ignoring is contempt, and contempt is aggression. We do not despise the body. We do not anesthetize awareness. We govern. The body is a student, loyal but untrained, and the I is its quiet instructor. When you say, "Be still," you are not saying, "I don't care." You are saying, "I care enough to return you to right order." Isn't your body your patient? Isn't your body your student? Then give it the dignity of good government. You will notice this practice changing your day in ways that have nothing to do with techniques. You will not spring at the bell on the telephone. You will answer when addressed. You will not bolt decisions. You will let them ripen. You will find yourself disinterested in the drama of symptoms or the glitter of stories, yours or the world's, and without effort, the fascination drains away. If a twinge arises in the foot, you do not start a treatment. You return to government. Be still and know I am God. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, in the grocery line, at the curb, before you cross a threshold. These little obediences stitch the day back into one presence. Remain now, just for a breath, with the simple fact. Feet resting, legs quiet, hips received, spine upheld. Not by your vigilance, but by I. Let the need to move subside, until movement, when it comes from within the stillness, and not from fear. There is no power in form or effect. All power is in the I that I am. And in that awareness, the claim, whatever its name, finds no ground, no law, no life. Be still and know, I am God. Now then, here is the point at which the practice becomes life. Up to now you have addressed. You have looked down into mind and body and said, "Be still." You have issued the quiet command. You have yielded. You have put up thy sword, and you have kept watch. If you persist, day after day, minute by small minute, there comes a shift for which no one can schedule a time. You do not produce it. You are caught by it. And then, without announcement, the sentence you have been giving is given to you. The very stillness you fostered looks upon you and says, "Be still and know I am God." And it does not come from your lips or your thought. It is as if the room within you has changed owners. Do not confuse this with shock or thrill. The authentic sign is not excitement. It is a quiet certainty that neither swells nor fades. It is peace without an argument for why it should be there. A gentle authority that asks no permission and requires no defense. You will notice it not by fireworks, but by government. Where there was bracing, there is unforced poise. Where there was searching, there is an end of questions. Where there was, "What shall I say next?" there is the absence of any need to say anything at all. You have crossed the threshold from practicing presence to presence practicing you. This inward assurance will sometimes clothe itself in familiar words, but not as quotations you recite. It comes as reality. You find yourself companioned, never left, never forsaken, And it is not a promise you are trying to believe. It is a fact that has already believed you. The mind tries to take a note. The heart knows it cannot be captured. Do not chase it. Be governed by it. If there is a temptation to turn it into a story, a teaching, a boast, stop. Return to stillness. Keep it holy and secret. Beware visions, voices, tingles, theatrics. They belong to the senses and are easily borrowed by the me. The proof here is not sensation. The proof is dominion. The proof is that your consciousness has come under a rule that does not argue with appearances and does not petition God to come do a job. You feel the non-aggressive majesty that refuses a second power. And out of that governance, healing is no longer something you attempt. It happens as the visibility of the I that is already wholeness. You will discover this in the very moment of a claim. Formerly you would treat, you would reach for truth, you would try to direct God. Now you behold. You feel the inner addressing, and you stand within it. And the claim loses the breath it borrowed from your fear. Sometimes it disappears then and there. Sometimes it dissolves as dew without drama. It does not matter how. What matters is that you have been met, and because you have been met, you are finished trying to meet anything. Be still, and let the I that addresses you be the only presence and the only power. Now then, let us come to the point of use. The moment a claim appears, pain, lack, conflict, the mind rushes to its toolbox. It wants to put a name on the condition, consult a memory, analyze a cause, pick a scripture, launch an affirmation, or mount an argument against it. Do you see how that feeds the very shadow you hope to dispel? Every mental thrust acknowledges a second power. The me tries to use truth to win a fight, and by doing so, it loans the claim its breath. Put up thy sword. Be still and know I am God. We do not hate claims. We do not fear them. We do not obey them. They are not persons. They are not powers. They are not laws. They are appearances begging for your recognition. The instant you argue, you enroll. The instant you plead, you promote. The instant you announce, I will treat this, you have made it a partner. No. Be still. Remain as the beholder until the quiet government is present. Non-mental healing is not passivity. It is the active recognition that only the I am governs. Here is your inward rule under pressure. When alarm flares, when the report arrives, when the body speaks sharply, stop. Close the lips. Let the tongue lie down from praying. Soften the eyes back into studentship. Feel the soles receive the ground. Say within, not at a person and not at a thing, but at the belief in another power. Get thee behind me. Then, be still and know I am God. Wait. Do nothing until the sense of push leaves you. If it takes 5 minutes, 10, an hour, this is the work. We are not timing God. We are refusing to time fear. If a symptom throbs, do not treat it mentally. Sit with it in the government you have practiced. Let the breath be what it is until it again is taken for you. If a diagnosis is pronounced, do not enter debate with words or with despair. Return to the inner descent you know, head, eyes, throat, chest, until peace takes its seat. If bad news arrives about money or home or kin, do not race to solutions. Become still until you are addressed. Then and only then, move as you are moved. Sometimes the moving is outward. Sometimes it is simply the end of inward resistance. Both are healing. You will notice in this way that claims lose their scaffolding. A fear without your consent cannot stage its drama. A lack without your belief cannot command obedience. A pain without your panic cannot borrow continuity. Little by little, or quickly, who decides, the appearance dissolves into its native nothingness. You did not conquer it. You withheld the lie of a second power. And in that refusal, the presence that is already wholeness became visible as the fact of the moment. Be faithful to this. In every pressure, obey the same order. Get thee behind me, to the belief in another power. Be still, to the performing me. And wait until I, the only governor, am felt. Then you will find you have not treated a condition. You have witnessed God. Now then, let us be plain. This is not a weekend. It is not minutes. It is months. I must ask you to accept this at the start, so that you will not become discouraged at the second week and say, it isn't working. It will take you not less than 3 to 4 months to successfully establish this meditation as a living government. Never less than 1 hour daily, and if you can, 2 hours divided, morning and evening, quiet, unrushed, unadvertised. In addition, several times during the day return for 5 minutes. Close the lips, soften the eyes, feel the soles, and simply be still and know I am God. 5 minutes, again and again. You are not timing God, you are retraining a world of habits. Why such time? Because truth works only as constituted consciousness. Knowing the correct letter is a step, it is not the demonstration. Agreement is not embodiment. To read that there is no power in form and to prove it are two different universes. The time is not to coax God. The time is to clarify thought, to dethrone reflex fear, to shift the sense of identity from me as governor to I as presence. At first it may be hard work. Good. Then you know you are meeting the layer that tried to rule you. Stay gently. Put up thy sword. Do not fight the impatience. Govern it with, be still. Begin with small demonstrations. Do not set yourself up to topple the world on day 1. If there is an irritation with a neighbor, a fear before a phone call, a twinge in the temple, a flutter in the belly, these are your students. Stop. Yield. Be addressed. When the agitation releases without your argument, mark it. That is a proof. If you have been always late and now, without strain, you arrive in quiet order, mark it. A proof. If a minor symptom dissolves as you refuse to treat it and simply stand in I, mark it. Each proof is a fiber. Together they become a cord of certainty that cannot be taken from you. The Wright brothers flew seconds, not continents, and yet the principle was proven. Oh good, so must you. Do not hurry to tackle the dramatic claim because you are proud or afraid to wait. Let dominion ripen. It is not cowardice, it is obedience. With each small demonstration, your confidence ceases to be bravado and becomes consciousness. Then when a larger appearance presents itself, you will not argue, you will not plead, you will not perform, you will stand. And standing, you will behold the nothingness of the claim. Now a warning that I must speak plainly. Do not teach this until it has become yours. Do not pass it on as a method. Do not lend your notes. Do not train another until you are governed by it in silence. Otherwise, You distribute the letter without the spirit, and you confuse good people. Keep it secret and sincere. When the peace of God has taken its seat in you so that you cannot be argued out of it, then you will not need to announce it. Your very presence will heal without advertising. Be still and know, I am God. You do not inherit this consciousness by belief. You build it by disciplined practice until it demonstrates. Now then, one more safeguard, and I must ask you to accept it without negotiation. Keep this work secret. Not because it is a trick to be hoarded, but because publicity recruits the very faculty we have been disarming: pride, performance, spiritual display. The instant you speak of your hours, your methods, your results, you start to listen to yourself listening to God, and the line is divided. All worship is wrong when done in public because the witness becomes the show. Keep the purpose of it secret. Let your devotion be without audience, your proofs written only in your heart. In secrecy, sincerity is protected. In privacy, the channel remains clear of applause and fear. Be still and know I am God. Do not misunderstand me. You may kneel if kneeling humbles the me. You may sit, you may walk, you may lie awake in the night and let the breath be taken for you. The posture is permitted. The motive must be pure. If kneeling is a notice to the world, stand up. If sitting is an advertisement to yourself, move. The rule is this: whatever form you choose, keep the practice inward. No props to impress another. No signals of holiness. No pious face for a mirror. Close the lips. Soften the eyes. Put up thy sword against the hunger to be seen doing good. Be still and know, I am God. Now, about our united work. This inner group is a united group, not a club, not a brand, not a following, but a circle of consent. On appointed days or in unannounced moments, we hold others in stillness, not to change them, not to project thought into their affairs, not to will outcomes, but to rest in presence on their behalf. Do you see? We do not send power. We refuse a second power. We do not treat a person. We behold the I that is already their life. If a name comes to you, if a need is reported, stop. Close the lips. Get thee behind me to the urge to fix. Be still until you are addressed, and then remain in the quiet government without a word, without a push, until the sense of pressure ends. That is united work. It is holy because it is non-aggressive. There is no selfish reason in this. We are not building reputations. We do not want to be known as healers. We desire only to be transparent. We dedicate our lives to whatever purpose God uses us for, even if no one names it and no one thanks us. The proof you require cannot be given to you by applause, by testimonials, by letters. It comes as peace that does not ask leave to enter. And when it enters, you will know it, and nothing can take it from you. So we close the circle where we began. When you have nothing to say to God, you are finally ready to hear. Stay until the silence addresses you. Continue, day by day, secretly, sincerely, in united quiet, until the peace descends and governs. Let that peace be your only guide, your only permission to move, your only announcement to the world, seen or unseen. Be still and know, I am God.